Hey there! Welcome back to Total Geek Live Baltimore Presents. I'm Baltimore, and today I am here to talk to you about Avengers Disassembled. Yeah, I'm talking about the event in 2004-2005, which basically broke up the Avengers and revamped things to kind of set the stage for Marvel for the, rest of the aughts and even further. So this was a seismic event, and I mean, it literally changed Marvel, and that's not an understatement, and it's not hyperbole. Uh, it really did. Brian Michael Bendis came in and revamped the Avengers, and basically took the Avengers, shredded them up, and said, "Here, I'm going to do something new," and he did. So let's talk about this. Let's kind of break it down because it's it's a lot. It's really kind of crazy. Um, and Avengers Disassembled took place over four basically titles, and it really kind of changed things really dramatically. It ran through Thor, it ran through Captain America, it ran through Fantastic Four, strangely enough, and the actual Avengers. So basically, this starts in Avengers 500, so the big issue 500, and runs through until 503. And basically, what happens is, when you're having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, it's not fun. It's hard. But imagine if that happened for superheroes. So the worst day in Avengers history happens, and it happens because of one of their own members. So that's kind of like a knife turning into your heart, really, really hard. So the kind of lay the land here. Wanda Maximoff, who is Magneto's daughter and Quicksilver's sister, twin sister. She's an Avenger in great standing. She's been with him basically since basically she's the second inception of the team. So she's been with him for years and years and years and years and years. And she and Vision were married at one point, and they had kids. Although you can't really have kids with a synthetic being, but her chaos magic and everything made it happen. She got pregnant with him and had kids. But it turned out those actually weren't kids. They were figments of her imagination. They're sort of souls in Mephisto, which is a long and little story. Basically, they disappear and she doesn't have them anymore. And for the story to happen, she doesn't remember having them at all. Well, Wasp sort of slips up and says, "Oh yeah, you had kids once," and she goes, "What?" And it starts her down this really dark path, with Agatha Harkness, who is a sorceress as well. So she kind of goes crazy. She doesn't know what's happening. She kind of slips into a mental breakdown, and it's awful. She toys with Tony Stark. She toys with Steve Rogers, and she basically destroys the Avengers. And this starts with Jack of Hearts coming back from space, and he is walking on the lawn of the Avengers Mansion and blows up. He explodes. And Ant-Man, too, the Scott Lang Ant-Man, was there and is seemingly killed. And it's like, oh my god. First Jack of Hearts, now Ant-Man. The team is basically down by, half almost at this point. And then the Vision comes in a Quinjet and slams into the mansion, and it's destroyed, and the Avengers are trying to figure out what's going on, and he basically vomits Ultron's up, and they now have to fight Ultron. So like, what is happening? It's all sorts of craziness. And then you have Scarlet Witch is still kind of, at this point, we, the readers, don't really know that this is happening, but Scarlet Witch is manipulating the events. She manipulated Vision into doing this, and now she's kind of hexing She-Hulk and making her enraged and savage, and She-Hulk just rips Vision apart and kills him. And it's a devastating scene because she's out of control and she can't stop herself, and she destroys this longtime Avenger. And she also hurts Wasp, and she also hurts the second Captain Britain, the female Captain Britain, who was serving a part of the team. So basically, the entire team is being destroyed, and it's brutal. Um, and then out of nowhere, a Kree armada shows up, and they have to fight them too, which is another sort of her kind of conjuring these up, and we get this very iconic and tragic scene where Hawkeye's arrows are about to explode on his back, and he grabs a jetpack from one of the Kree and zooms up into the Kree ship and screams, "Not like this," and then explodes and dies. And it's a really cheap death. It's really unbefitting of Hawkeye. It's a kind of a... I hated it, to be honest. Um, but yeah, so now you've got Hawkeye dead, Vision dead, Scott Lang dead, Ant-Man dead. You have Jack of Hearts dead. Jen, She-Hulk, is completely bonkers and crazy, and they have to, stop her from, raging on. And she's not done. There's still more going on, and the Avengers have to contact Doctor Strange, to try to figure out what's going on. And Doctor Strange, as the Sorcerer Supreme, should kind of know these things are happening when things on the magical side are being manipulated or weirded out, or something's going on, and he doesn't know. And he ends up figuring out that Scarlet Witch is behind this, and they have to go stop her. And they end up going to Agatha Harkness, who is basically the mentor for Scarlet Witch for Wanda, and realize that Agatha's dead and has been dead for years, and the only reason she was alive was because of Wanda. So that's just another we really should have been watching Wanda a little bit more closely, and it's just a super tragic event. You have a really sad double page spread of all the Avengers in front of the mansion, trying to figure out what's going on. It was just like brutal, brutal, brutal. And one of the things, everyone has lots of opinions about Bendis, whether he's good or great or mediocre or just overrated. But he really defined the Avengers for more than a decade. He spent quite a long time writing them, and like him or not, he really changed Avengers, and he made them what they are today, basically. We wouldn't really have the Avengers that we do on screen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe without the work he did with Avengers Disassembled and subsequently New Avengers. So a lot of credit where it's due. He revamped the Avengers and made them a name again. Made them Earth's mightiest heroes, as they should be, whether you like it or not. And I did. But this was basically, it was challenging because I loved the Avengers and I loved everything about it, the history, the tradition of it, the characters with it. And he basically came into the sandbox and destroyed it all and said, "Here, I'm just going to play with these ones." So it was a little hard at first to accept, what came next, which would be the New Avengers. But I like the characters that he brought in. Spider-Woman, really exciting. Luke Cage, great. I'm glad that they're going to be Avengers along with Iron Man and Captain America. The two that I wasn't super thrilled about was Spider-Man and Wolverine. And while I think that they could, somewhat be Avengers material, to me, it was just pandering on let's get the most popular characters and put them into a book and call it New Avengers. And I feel like it was a blatant ploy on the same way that they did Justice League with, let's just get all the super popular characters and put them in a title and it'll sell. And it did, but he actually had a lot of thought into the roster. So it wasn't just these random people. They actually kind of served a purpose, each one of them. So when moving forward in New Avengers, it kind of worked, even if I didn't want it to work for the most time. But it did. So we have Wanda going crazy, and they have to fight her, and it's this this is our teammate, and she's gone crazy. And do we save her? Do we kill her? How do we stop her? And basically, they were finally able to stop her with Doctor Strange and a whole bunch of help. They stop her, and Magneto comes in and takes her away and says, "This is my daughter. I'm going to help her if you can't do it." And he whisks her away to Genosha, where he's at the moment. So there's a lot of things happen, and in very short order. It's issue 500 to 503, and then the title's over. No more Avengers. It's now New Avengers, which starts later on. And so it's like, oh my God, the Avengers are over. She destroyed the team, and they decided they weren't going to have any more Avengers. And then, of course, they finally decide, okay, well, maybe we will have the New Avengers after an event. So this was a big tragedy because, not only in the Avengers story, but you have Thor. And in Thor Disassembled, in his title, basically dealt with Ragnarok and the destruction of Asgard and the death of all the gods. And so this took Thor off the books for quite a many years. And he was dead. He and the other Asgardians were no longer around. And that was really significant. You didn't have Thor there. And, when you're kind of like thinking about the Avengers, if you don't have Thor there, it's kind of hard to think that it's an Avengers team. So this was a really seismic shift in Marvel Comics, and it was challenging, and it was shocking, and there's a lot of talk where you're like, oh, I want things to change, but I kind of want them to stay the same, and now we're getting it, and we kind of like, oh God, this has changed, it's weird, but you kind of have to go with it, and either you read it, enjoy it, and you find things that you like, or you don't read it and you move on to something else. But this was a. I keep wanting to say this is a fun event, and it was certainly not a fun event, but it was a very powerful event. And Brian Michael Bendis did a great job, notwithstanding the continuity errors that he constantly does. But he did a great job with the title, and he really, made his mark on the Avengers. And I have to say we're all better for it. But, let me know what you think about Avengers Disassembled. Did it really affect you like it did me? Or were you just kind of like, this is just another comic? And I'd like to talk to you because I have words with you. But tell me what you think about Avengers Disassembled. Comment, like, subscribe, share this with people, and let's talk about Avengers Disassembled and see if it has resonance today. Could there be another Disassembled happening? So that's it. As always, it's all geek to us. See you soon.